Hi everyone, Bonnie Terry here, and today we're going to be talking about how do you teach the spelling patterns with making spelling sense so that kids can really understand the spelling patterns. Again, it's Bonnie Terry. Thank you for joining us. Hi everyone, it's Bonnie Terry here from Bonnie Terry Learning. And what I wanted to talk to you today a little bit about is the structure of the language, the spelling patterns, and why they're important and how I use them for teaching spelling. And so I put up the letter CT, and I'll often, when I'm in a seminar speaking around the country or in Canada or in China, different places I've spoken about how we put letters together to make words, I'll ask teachers as well as parents, what does this say? And they kind of look at me usually like I'm a little bit of a crazy lady. And finally somebody will eventually say, Kt. And I'll say, that's right. Is there any meaning there? And they'll say, no. And so I say, now, what happens when we go like this? And I'll try to get the wider edge on this here. So I'm just separating out my C and T. And I put some vowels in there. So now, all of a sudden, instead of kt, I have words. I have cat, cot, and cut. And so when we add a vowel, it's going to give the pizzazz. It's give the words voice. And so we have the word cat, caught, and cut. And these are all in the short vowel pattern. It's the easiest pattern to teach. It's the first one that I teach. And in the book, Making Spelling Sense, as well as Making Spelling Sense 2, it's the first one that we go over. Out of the 500 most frequently used words, there's 11 lessons worth of vowel consonant words because it is the most frequently used pattern. Even larger words use the vowel consonant pattern within them. So what I'll do, I wanted to show you, when I'm giving my students a word, because I'm teaching the structure and want them to learn the patterns, I'll give a sound at a time. So, for instance, I might say B, and I would want them to write it down, and after they've written it down, I'll write it down. And then I'll say ah, and after they've written it down, I'll write it down. And then I'll say x. I'll wait for them to write it down. And then I write it down. And so then I'll say, now what's the vowel pattern? And sometimes they'll forget that it's the easiest one, the vowel consonant. And so I will actually underline the first sound and I'll say beginning sound, vowel pattern. And it's a vowel consonant pattern. It's your short vowel sound. Now this is going to also work for multi-syllable words. I don't always make my, when I'm writing them on the board, make my vowels red. I'm doing that more for showing you, so that it really stands out. So this next word, I'm not going to do that so that you can see how I'm doing it when I'm with my students. So I'm going to give you the sounds k with a C. I'll normally say with a C because that sound can also be a K. So I will give you my students a heads up that it's k with a C. Then I'll say ah. Wait for them to write it down, then I'll write it down. N. Wait for them to write it down, then I'll write it down. N. Wait for them to write it down, then I'll write it down. Ah. Wait for them to write it down, then I'll write it down. Wait for them to write it down, then I write it down. So then I'll say, what's your word? And they'll pull it together and say, cannot, which is actually a compound word. And so then when we're talking vowel patterns, we have 2 syllables. I could clap the word cannot. I've got 2 syllables, so that means I need 2 patterns. So I'll say beginning sound, vowel pattern, beginning sound, vowel pattern. Now, I'm doing this at the same time that they're doing it in their book, and they can either, we may be doing this on this beginning sheet where they're writing the words and then copying the patterns, or we may be doing this when we are actually doing the spelling test, where I give a sound each time, they write all their sounds down, then they rewrite their word, and then they write their pattern. Because of space constraints on the design of the page, we had to have them write their pattern next to the word. And that's the reason why I like to show them that it's directly under it so they can really see the connection there. So I'm going to go ahead and do a couple of other words from other patterns so that you can see how this works with other patterns as well. And I'll say I, n. Again, I wait each time for them to write it down and then I write it. But for, you know, I don't want to be taking forever on this, so I'm going to go ahead and start writing them right after I say the sound. Next sound, s. I, d. Now I know I need to put in a final silent E here because this I said its name. This particular pattern, for this portion, is our vowel consonant silent E pattern, where the E kind of curls up like a snake and it says to the vowel in front of it, "What's your name?" And it's a little bit afraid to say its nickname sound because we've got this snake there saying, "What's your name?" So instead it says its actual name, I. Or if it were an A, it would say A. If it were an E, it would say E. If it were an O, it would say O. And the U says, you think I'm going to always say my U? I'll do that sometimes, but sometimes I'm going to see if I can fool you, and I'll go ooh instead. For instance, in the word blue, B-L-U-E. So the long vowel U actually has two different sounds. So after we've written this down, I have the kids pull the sounds together and tell me what the word is, and they'll say inside. We don't have any beginning sound here, consonant sound here. We start right with the vowel pattern. So we're going to go VC. I would clap inside, so I know that's where I need this pattern ends and the next one starts. Beginning sound, vowel, consonant, silent E. And so now we have a two-syllable word and we've got two different patterns. Now we also have things called vowel patterns, and that's when two vowels come together, and typically they'll come together to make a new sound. So I'm going to do another two-syllable word so that you can see how you would do this. Ow, t, s. I, d. Again, I know that I need this final silent E because the I said its name. Outside, so that means I need to divide it right here, so I'll have one vowel pattern over here and the second one over here. No beginning sound, so this is our vowel pattern. Beginning sound, vowel, consonant, silent E. So that kind of gives you an idea of how we do that. It also is going to work with three-syllable words. It will work with eight-syllable words. However many syllables, large words are just combinations of vowel patterns put together. So I'm going to go ahead and do a three-syllable word here for you. And as you're doing this, as you're working through the book, you'll know, for instance, when I said the ow, because you are working on the OU, you would know that the OU was actually making that sound. So I'm going to go ahead and do another word here. N, d, N, D. And I'll say, what's the word? And they'll say, understand. Understand. No beginning sound, so wherever the first vowel is, that's where your vowel pattern starts. So we have vowel, consonant, beginning sound. This is our vowel plus R pattern. Actually, here we have two beginning sounds before the vowel pattern. Then we have vowel, consonant pattern. Understand. So that just kind of shows you how larger words are just combined of, smaller components, just different vowel patterns. So we have the first syllable, the second syllable, and the third syllable. So as I say, you can have a variety of vowel patterns thrown together to make your larger words. In the second book, we're going to get into more complicated words, and we'll really start dealing with things like prefixes and suffixes and root words and language of origin. That we're doing the same exact vowel patterns because we only put letters together 8 ways to make words. D, I, G, N, I, T, A, R, E. And our words, dignitary. And so we have beginning sound, vowel consonant pattern, vowel accent pattern, vowel plus R, vowel accent pattern. And in this particular lesson, we're actually working with the suffix ARY. And that suffix means related to or connected to. And so dignitary is going to be connected to the word, the root word, which would be dignify. So we have a whole list of words that have the ARY as the suffix. We'll have lists of words with the ITY as a suffix, like charity, prosperity, popularity. And we'll explain what the meaning of the ITY was. So we go through that throughout so that you're learning what that little piece means. For instance, IPT, IPT, refers to writing, and so we have script and transcript and postscript and manuscript and nondescript. Move a step further when you get into the second book. If your kids are older, I still suggest starting them off with the first book to really get the patterns down, not just the patterns, but to get the sounds down. A lot of kids with spelling problems, in fact, the majority of kids and adults that have spelling problems have spelling problems because they have areas of auditory processing that are not working as efficiently as it should be and could be. And so we're going to be really addressing those auditory issues as we're doing it. It really makes a difference. So this is Bonnie Terry with Bonnie Terry Learning and our books Making Spelling Sense and Making Spelling Sense Too. So thank you much and have a great day.
Don't delay. Order your Making Spelling Sense 1 and 2 today. Get your kids on the road to learning how to spell with ease. Just go to bonnietterrylearning.com/spelling or call our office 530-888-7160.